How's everybody doing? We are going to be doing the I'm going to be doing the live version of Whitaker Woods Part 2. I'm going to be reading instead of going through the whole video thing. The first chapter that I did, it didn't do too good, so I didn't record the second chapter. So what we're going to do is, let's see here. I'm just going to read this live so you guys can hear it live, and we'll see how that works out for us. Maybe that'll do better. I mean, maybe the first chapter just wasn't too good or something, not sure, but I just didn't do too good, so I just didn't make another one. So I've got my little reading glasses here that I just got. Oh, look at that. Ooh. That looks dumb. It's kind of cool though. I just got these yesterday. I got really bad eyesight, so whatever. Let's see if they work. Who's that? Anne Maria Boatarde. These don't work. They don't work too well. I got another day. So it's just kind of be a just a laid back vibe here, a chilled little live. We're gonna read some of the story to you guys because it is October. Halloween is coming up this month, and who doesn't like a good Halloween story, right? So we'll just do that. Oh geez, I don't think these are any better. Oh, maybe. I look weird with glasses on, reading glasses and a cowboy hat. That's funny. So if you heard the last chapter, guys, the last one, the characters here are Joe and Tabitha and Felicia at the moment. And we're just going to pick up right where we left off. Chapter 1 left off, he was, I believe, sitting at the fireplace, and somebody began to walk down the steps. The woman revealed herself as a woman named Adiela, and she just told him that he is in the town of Whitaker, and she's walked back up the stairs now. So that's where we're going to be picking up. So here we go. Let's see, where are we at here? No, that's not right. I've been writing this book for almost 8 years now. So let's see what we got here. Here we go. Alright, so Joe stood there for a moment with a puzzled look on his face, remembering what the girls had told him earlier. Moments later, Tabitha and Felicia came walking down the stairs. Joe put his shirt back on. Don't do that, they said. I'm kidding. When they got down, Joe told them about Adiela. Then Adiela and her sisters came down the stairs. Her sisters' names were Kelly and Tiana. Joe noticed that each of them had a southern accent, which Joe liked. Tabitha noticed that Joe was taking a liking to the three beautiful girls, and she became jealous. I wrote this whole part here I wrote like literally 8 years ago, so I don't even know what it says. Then the girls told Joe that they were actually about to have a big meal, and that Dr. Acula would be down shortly to eat with them. So Joe, Tab, and Felicia sat down at the long table in the dining room. Then Tiana and Kelly brought out food and laid it on the table. But just before everyone started eating, they heard an eerie voice say, "Good evening." When they all turned around, they saw an old man with white hair and wearing all black. His eyes seemed to glow with a red tint, and his pale skin looked like rubber. He had long, bony fingers with long, dirty fingernails. He looked like he had already died years ago and had been embalmed twice. He introduced himself as Dr. Acula. Adiela and her sisters stood up and said, "Good evening, Master." Joe and Felicia looked at each other with strange looks on their faces. Joe wondered why they called him master if they were not truly his slaves. They were served ribs, potatoes, cornbread, green beans, and red wine. Joe asked if there was anything else to drink in the house. "Oh yes," answered Kelly, "but we'll be drinking it later tonight." "We only drink things that are red," Dr. Acula told them. "That's weird," Tabitha thought to herself. So Joe began to eat the ribs on his plate. They had a weird texture to them. Tabitha then tried hers and asked, "What kind of meat is this?" "I've never tasted meat like this before." "It's a house special," answered Dr. Acula. "We don't eat it very often. We hope you'll enjoy it." As he said that, thunder cracked loud and lightning lit up the room, and it sounded like a tree branch hit a window, breaking it upstairs. Dr. Acula then said, "I'll go check it out." He stood up and turned and looked at Joe and the girls and said, "Please, feel free to stay the night. We just love to have guests. We wouldn't want y'all getting out into that storm again. It could be dangerous." All right, let's take a look here. Who we got commenting? What's up, Stacy Simmons? How's it going? SRW. Hey, Joe. Hi, Joe from California. Hey, how's it going? Hey, from Texas, everybody. This is my Halloween story. So we're just gonna read a little bit of it, give you guys a little taste on, just a few minutes of it. Let's see. Then he walked out of the dining room. After they were all done eating, Tiana took them up the stairs, and she allowed Tab and Felicia to sleep in the room they had originally found with the bed. Then Kelly took Joe further down the hall and across the house. She told him there was another room that had a bed and a fireplace so he could stay warm. When they entered the room, the fireplace was already lit. She told him there was other clothes for a man in the closet. So Joe changed, lay down, and fell into a deep sleep. While he was dreaming, he dreamed he had woken up to see that the fireplace in his room had caught some furniture on fire. So Joe jumped to his feet in his dream and tried to put out the fire with the clothes he had taken off earlier. When that didn't work, he broke a window and looked out into the front yard. He saw Tabitha and Felicia wearing white dresses, swinging on old wooden swings hanging from a tree branch. "Help!" he yelled to them, but they could not hear him. When he turned around, he saw an old man whose throat had been slit. Blood was running out of his eyes, and he was burning on fire. He began to walk towards Joe with his hands out, saying, "Leave while you can! Get out!" Joe screamed and ran for the door. He ran into the hallway and saw a ghostly figure sitting down playing a piano. It was another man. He was crying as he played. Joe stared at him in disbelief, as he knew this man was a ghost. Suddenly the man stopped playing his piano and looked up at Joe. He began violently screaming, "What are you doing here? Get out! Leave now!" The man then stood to his feet and began to run after Joe. Joe ran as fast as he could, trying to find another room that was unlocked. Finally, a door opened, and he saw a window. So he shut the door and ran to the window to see if Tabitha and Felicia were still out front. He saw them still swinging in the front. Then he saw the headless horseman riding down the plantation's road. Joe began to scream at the girls, trying to warn them that he was coming. The horseman then pulled out his long sword and held it up, sprinting towards the sisters. Oh man, it's getting crazy. Joe looked around the room and saw a wooden chair. He picked it up and began slamming it into the window, trying to break it, but it wouldn't bust. It was like the window was rubber, just absorbing the blows. He screamed and punched the window in frustration. Then he saw the horseman cut off Felicia's head, and then Tabitha's head. "No!" Joe screamed. The horseman then got off of his horse and looked down at their bodies, then looked up at Joe and saw looked up and saw Joe in the window. The horseman ran towards the house as if he was coming to get Joe. Joe panicked, and when he turned around, the horseman was right in front of him. But before he had a chance to scream, the horseman rammed his long sword into his heart. As soon as this happened, Joe awoke, jumping from his sleep. That's right, guys. If you're just tuning in, that was a dream Joe was having. This is my Halloween story. Welcome, y'all, to the Cup of Joe show. We're reading just a little bit of this story here. I'm going to take a short break and see what's going on. Are you the author of this story? Yes, I am. Yes, he writes all the stories. Yeah, I wrote this one about 8 years ago. I just never got it published or anything, so it's just in a spiral. A lot of people told me not to even do this one, not to even put it on YouTube, so, you know, they said it's controversial, so, but, I just like to write good stories, you know. This takes place back in the 1800s, as does, a different cowboy. Back to the story. Let's see here. He jumped to his feet and ran down the hall to check on Tabitha. He walked into her room and told her about his dream. He expressed his concern that something was really strange about this house. So the girls got up and followed Joe to check out the house a little better. While they were walking down one of the halls, they heard a distant voice screaming, "Help! Help us!" They heard the faint cry coming from a room they had never seen before. So Joe walked to the door and tried to open it, but the door was locked. Of course, right? Again, I mean, if it was unlocked, they wouldn't be screaming help, most likely. Again, they heard multiple people screaming. So Joe started kicking the door until it finally opened. When it did, Joe and the girls rushed in. They saw 4 men and 2 women tied up with rope. "Vanessa?" the girl screamed out, running to the youngest girl. "You know her?" asked Joe. "Yes, we know her. That's our sister we haven't seen in 7 years. So they untied her and the others. All the girls hugged and told each other how much they missed her. They asked Vanessa what had happened and why they were tied up. Vanessa told them that Adiela and her 2 sisters were vampires, and that Dr. Acula was the one who turned them into vampires, and the name Dr. Acula was short for Dracula. She said that Dracula had come to their plantation promising to give them a better life, and bought them from the slave owner. But when they arrived to his plantation, Dr. Acula revealed he was a vampire and killed the oldest member of their group by slitting his throat and draining his blood. Then he caught his body on fire. Then they attacked a man named Charles, who played the piano for his slave master. The vampires attacked him, drinking his blood. Then they ripped his ribs out to save them to feed to the next victims. "Oh my God," Joe interrupted her by saying. "That was the man in my dream. They weren't trying to hurt me, they were trying to warn me. And those ribs we ate were Charles's ribs. We've got to get out of here," yelled Vanessa. "They've been keeping us and feeding off of us. Now that they've got y'all here, they're going to kill off more of us." The names of the other women and 4 men were Samantha, Jake, Nick, Thomas, and Benjamin. As they began to discuss a plan to escape, they heard someone coming down the hall. They saw a shadow under the door. The shadow stopped momentarily, and then began to walk off again. Joe said he would go out into the hall and look for a way to get everyone out. He told everyone to stay there because he also needed to go back to his room to grab his guns. So Joe slowly made his way down the hall, cautiously looking out for the unknown person whose shadow they had seen earlier. Joe made it to the door of his room and slowly began to open it. He saw that the room was pitch black because the fire had gone completely out. He heard a noise, and suddenly the fire burst back into life in the fireplace. lighting up the whole room. Joe was startled and quickly turned his attention to the fire. Then he heard a familiar voice say, "Hey, Joe. I've been waiting on you." It was Adiella. She was laying on Joe's bed in lingerie. Oh boy, here we go. I don't remember writing this, so just bear with me. Here we go. Like I said, this was when I was like 22 when I wrote this. 21. It's probably about to get steamy. I don't know. Joe asked her what she was doing in his room. "I want you," she replied. "Don't you want my body, Joe?" Though she was very attractive, Joe knew he had to resist her. "No," he replied firmly. "Oh, that's too bad," Adiella responded. She then looked over his shoulder and nodded her head. Before Joe could turn to look to see what she was nodding at, Joe had 4 hands all over him, touching and rubbing on him. He looked and saw it was Kelly and Tiana. They were also wearing lingerie. Of course they were. What else would they be wearing? A suit? "Don't you want us, Joe?" asked Tiana. "Yeah, don't you? You can have all of us right now," Kelly added. They grabbed him and began to seductively pull him towards the bed. They removed their clothing, revealing their near goddess-like bodies. They grabbed Joe's hands and began to make him touch their breast. All right, we're going to take a break right there. Oh, shit. The comments here. All right, let's set. Come on, phone. Here we go. All right, looking like an old man over here. All right, let's see. Thanks, Stacy. You're welcome. Yikes. Hello, everyone. Hey, Monica. How's it going? We are reading this story I wrote about 8 years ago. Whitaker Wood. So let's keep going. Let's back up a little. They grabbed Joe's hands and began to make him touch their breast. Maybe they're not vampires, Joe thought to himself. Maybe the other girls were just jealous and they made the whole thing up. Yeah, right? Why not? And besides, these women are too beautiful to be vampires. It can't be true. Joe got in the bed with the girls after they had taken his shirt off. His level of temptation had become greater than his willpower to say no. And he gave in. He began to kiss Adiella and then Kelly, while Tiana was performing a sexual act on him. Okay. Joe began to feel